What's going on, boys? NealGuides here. Welcome back to another video. And in today's video we have the Meta Premier League players, best players in each position. Naturally we're going to start off with a goalkeeper. Now you have two options. De Gea is one of the best goalkeepers for for a couple of Ks, probably the best goalkeeper now. De Gea last year was very underrated. This year he's a bit of a hit and miss. His distribution is bad, and because he's been nerfed, he's one of those goalkeepers where he can do an amazing save, but he can let you down the most simplest chances. So if you're good at defending, this save with feet trait is still very important this year, especially for low drivens. Low drivens are and shots across goal. If you do goalkeeper movement, I'd recommend De Gea. I think he's a class for goalkeeper movement. But if you're just going with a traditional goalkeeper that you just want generally for the game, I'll definitely go with Edison. I think is one of the best cards in the game. Now for right backs, there's a lot of right backs. I've used a lot of them. I've used Walker, I've used Wan-Bissaka. In fact, let me just go through the concept players. So I'm going to give you a bit of a rundown, should I say. So Premier League, this is going to be mid-tier. So depending on so let's say each position, we're going to talk about mid-tier players. In all honesty, look, the best right backs in the Premier League are not the Trents because they're just too slow. Yes, they're the highest rated, but the best right back in my opinion is Wan-Bissaka. There's a lot of reasons why. It's simply because of the agility and balance for me. Yes, Walker is very much in contention, which I mentioned before, but Walker lacks that agility and balance. So in theory, Walker is still very, very good, but I still prefer Wan-Bissaka. Now that's my personal preference. If you're going to go ahead and do it there for most players, if you're not a regular NealGuides viewer, I would say I'd go with Walker. Yes, Cancelo's got better passing, but I'll be honest, passing down the wing is a big thing. And you can always put, if you want to, something like a powerhouse, if you really want to get both his defending and his passing up for Walker. I think he's a top tier card, and I'll definitely say go with Walker. If you're a typical NealGuides viewer, I'd say go with Wan-Bissaka. He's much cheap anyway. In fact, this video is turning into like mid-budget and low-budget, but let's just stick to the mid-budget and we'll go with Walker. Now, for the centre-backs, there isn't that many good options, in all honesty. There's quite a few, but you have the players like Varane. I'm going to consider Varane to be on a high end. And then you have, for example, on the lower end, you have the players like Rudiger, the Gomez's. They're very good. And one addition that's coming that's new this year is Romero card. Some of you guys seen this Inform Romero card, a really good card. In fact, for his height, and to be honest, he's got the best work rates you can have for a centre-back. Now, the agility balance is decent as well. So he's one of the best centre-backs in the Premier League for the price. He's around about 16k, absolute steal, to be honest with you. So definitely go with someone like Romero, one of the best cards you can get for the money. 16k, and you can't really go wrong. Next to him now, again, when it comes to centre-backs, the most important thing is pace. People keep sending me a squad of you, especially if you're part of the Patreon. And it's sending me Ruben Diaz. Ruben Diaz is not good enough. In theory, people say pace is not important this year. It's not true. It's very important. For the L1 triggers in behind, doesn't matter if you're parking a bus, pace is still important. Minimum I would go is 75 sprint speed on all players. So I would say for the second tier budget, you either go with Rudiger or Gomez. Now Gomez, since last year, has been very good. This year he's a couple of K. He's a very cheap card. Lacks the agility and balance, because agility and balance is still important this year, probably even more important this year for centre back, simply because of manual jockeying being so rigid. So the agility and balance will really help you for a defender. So I've gone with Gomez. He's only a couple of Ks, really cheap card. For the left backs, I've been using a lot of them. I personally prefer two, Reguilon and well, the game is frozen for me, but Reguilon and Robertson. Now Robertson is very good because he can do a bit of everything. He can pass, he can distribute the ball, and Reguilon is very cheap. Now if you've got a hybrid team or you're rocking a hybrid team, I was playing Reguilon for a very long time, and this game is garbage, but I was playing Reguilon for a very long time just for the simple fact that he was very quick on the ball, and he was very good going forward. So if you want to have someone who's got high work rates, Reguilon is a perfect left back. Otherwise, Robertson is very good. Now, while I'm here, or I'm even just loaded, but I might as well say, if you're going to be playing fullbacks and centre back, the three best fullback centre backs that I've used this year are number one, Wan-Bissaka. The most important thing is the medium-high work rates, and Wan-Bissaka definitely has that. If you want to be playing him in centre back, that is what's very important. Walker has got high work rate, so he's also very effective in centre back. And then you have Robertson. Robertson is also very effective as well. He's a very good card, and he's got the agility and balance. I'll definitely recommend those three players for playing fullbacks and centre back. So for the left back, we're just going to carry this on, and we're going to go ahead with Robertson. Now, for the centre mids, Kante is going to be, as I said, a bit too much, way out of budget. So we're going to completely ignore Kante. Otherwise, I would say go ahead and get Kante. Now, there's a couple of players this year. If you're looking about for a mid-tier card, Bruno Fernandez, I would say, is a very, very good centre mid. Just because he has naturally high work rate, so he's very, very good box to box. 4-star, 3-star. The weak foot does let him down a little bit. Still very good for the finesse shot meta. But you put a shadow on him, and he becomes one of the best centre mids in the game. You know, he's got a very, very high stamina, good pace, and he's got really, really good shooting. Now, his stand tackling and his defense awareness are pretty high, so you put a shadow on him and you most definitely got a very, very good card. So I definitely say Bruno Fernandez has to go in. Now, alongside him, there's a couple of other cards that you're talking about. If you're talking about midfielders, you have KDB, but just to keep a bit of balance in, I think it's important to have a systematic, I suppose you can say, system. Now, in terms of Premier League player centre mid, there's a couple of very cheap cards like Fred. Pogba is a really, really good card, and also a very good card. Saul is also a decent card. Everyone else below that, I'll be honest, they're really not worth it. They're really not worth it. But Fred has been a very, very good card for me. I love Fred. In fact, I've had him in my team for a very, very long time. So Fred definitely goes in. I think, you know, Allen is also another good option. Now, if you're looking for a defensive CDM on the cheap, just go with Allen. I think with a shadow, he's a very, very good card. In fact, I use him with a shadow, so you can't really go wrong with him. So you kind of got one attacking and one defensive. Now, for the left mid, look, I'm gonna say Son straight away, without even question. I know he's probably higher budget. He's gone down a bit with a crash, but I know he's a bit on the higher budget, but he's too good. You do have the likes of Mane, but they're just way too expensive at this stage. I just think it's too much money to even consider. And on the lower mid end, you do have the likes of Rashford, but again, Rashford's like 70k now. His price has gone down. Now he does have a 3-star weak foot, but he does have the 5-star skill move. So if you're talking about him as someone up front, he's not that bad. He doesn't have the outside of foot shot trait. But as a left mid, as a striker, I think he is a really, really good card. So I would say definitely go along with someone like him. If you've got the money, I would say definitely go ahead with the likes of Son. Then move over to the right mid position. As I mentioned, you know, right mids, unfortunately, Premier League, there isn't that many. Now, the one that I use all the time, without a question, is Lucas Moura, just simply because he has that agility and balance. 139 games, high, medium, 4-star, 4-star. Decent finishing. You can put a finish on him and get that agility and balance and that finishing setup. I think he's impeccable as a left attacker mid or right attacker mid, even as a second striker in a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-4-2. He's a really, really good card. Now, there isn't that many good cards in the Premier League for right mid positions. I'll be honest. There isn't that many. There's a couple of new cards that have come out. We've seen the likes of the Rafinhas and so on, but truthfully speaking, a lot of those cards are not really clutch. Now, Sancho is just too slow for me. The Sarr Inform card is actually a really good one. He has got a 2-star weak foot. Bear that in mind, he's got a 2-star weak foot, but he's actually a really, really good card to play. I would still go with Lucas Moura because you get the agility and balance, and that's why, even though people say Sarr is good, I think Lucas Moura is better. And same with Rafinha. Rafinha is not that bad. He has a bit better, debate where there's better shooting on it, probably the similar, maybe even worse in some ways. But again, he's 4-star, 4-star, high, similar to Lucas Moura, but Lucas Moura's got better better balance. So the agility and balance combo, they do weigh it out. So that's why I wouldn't really go ahead and say Rafinha, and everyone else is just really not good enough in my opinion. It's the same thing when you switch to the right wing perspective. You do, like, on the lower end, like, you can play like I've been playing when the game came out. I played Saint Maximin and I swapped him over to the right hand side. I've been playing like that. Salah is a bit too expensive, Mahrez is too slow, and Gabriel Jesus, he does lack in terms of those areas. So in terms of mids, I think Lucas Moura is really definitely the go-to player. I don't think there's really anyone else you want to be playing in that right mid role, and Lucas Moura does fit in very, very well. Now, in terms of the strikers, we're going to talk about cams and strikers. If you're talking about a cam, the best cam in the Premier League, I suppose you can say, is KDB. There's probably no question about that. He's such an impeccable card. In terms of the mid-tier other cards in contention, there isn't that much. Now, normally I would say if I was going to be playing a 4-2-3-1, I would prefer a second striker in that cam role. That's just me. Of course, Ronaldo's on a higher end. Now, Kane. Now, listen. I know what you're going to say to me is, no, are you taking the piss or something? Look at the guy's agility and balance and sprint speed. I agree. But if you're playing a 2-striker formation, Kane might not be a bad idea. If you can use the headers right, you don't use skill moves, and you want to abuse the finishing, don't forget Kane's got a 5-star weak foot. So inside the boxy deli. So if you want someone who can maybe dribble like Lucas Moura up front, and someone that's very rigid that can header the ball and you can shield the ball, Kane is definitely the person to go for. Yes, he can't dribble. Yes, he hasn't got the best of sprint speed. But if you play him in the two, like in a 4-4-2 or in a 3-5-2 with a five-star weak foot, I'll be honest, he's not a bad option. Not a player that I would use, in all honesty. But he is actually a really, really good option. There's no doubt about that. Aubameyang for me, truthfully speaking, he's all right. Lacks the agility and balance. This is the card I would use. If I'm talking about Premier League, I'm definitely going to go with someone like Aubameyang. Again, he lacks agility and balance, but because he has that pace and he has that shooting, you can't really say no. Vardy's a bit on the lower end, but he's also another very good clinical card. You could think of him like the cheap Kane. Well, not cheap Kane, like a 4-star weak foot Kane. A bit better agility and balance and much better pace. So if you really value the pace, you can go with Vardy as opposed to Kane. Werner's a bit on the cheap end. Do you know what? I should have maybe just done this as in kind of every single budget list, but since I've done it. So you really don't have that much options. Jesus is just, in my opinion, not worth it either, just because he's got the 3-star weak foot. I tried to go with a 5-star weak foot. You can play Jota. Jota's actually a very, very good card and striker. And then you have the other option is Lukaku. Now Lukaku's a bit of a Kane with pace, I suppose you can say. Hasn't got the 5-star weak foot, but he's got the 4-star weak foot. You put a Hunter on him, and he's based like the Harry Kane, and he's got the heading and the strength as well. So Lukaku's not a bad option either. Not two cards that I would play. I would still go with the like someone like Vardy, someone like Jota in striker with Lucas Moura. But that is definitely the cards to go with. And like I said, for the goalkeeper, someone like Edison or someone like De Gea is very, very good. Maybe next one I would probably do like all 3 tiers at the same time, because I think just doing mid-tier was probably not worth it. But let me know what you think. Let me know if I should even continue this series on. I'll judge it by the views, see if it's worth continuing or not. But anyway, guys, that is the mid-tier. Most of these cards, I suppose you can say around that below 100k mark. So I'm just going to say below 100k for this. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Take it easy, and I'll catch you next time. Peace out.